So there's two things I want to do. I want to finish this poor poem or this poor description. I'm not sure. It's like the etymology of where all these different phrases came from. I'm not sure if that's 100%, but it sounds reasonable. Some phrases that they'd already came across, they said if you're piss poor, that came from when they used to actually piss in a pot. They used to piss in a pot and give that piss. Families would piss in a pot, and that pot they would take to the tanners because they would use urine in order to tan animal hides and animal skins. So if you're piss poor, you're one of those families that actually literally had to sell their own piss in order to survive. But that wasn't as poor as someone who didn't have a pot to piss in. If you didn't even have a pot to piss in, you couldn't take anything to make any money. You didn't even have a pot. You know, you just had to piss in the weeds and not get paid for it. Which is actually that's what I do. So I guess I'm pretty wasteful when it comes to my liquid excrement. So there was also piss poor and dirt poor. If you were dirt poor, that meant your floor was dirt. Like literally, it was dirt. It didn't have any, any tiles or anything over it. So if you're piss poor, dirt poor, it meant you were really fucking poor. So they talked about threshold. I'm not sure really. It might be right. In the old days, they cooked in the kitchen with a big kettle that always hung over the fire. Every day they lit the fire and added things to the pot. They ate mostly vegetables and did not get much meat. They would eat the stew for dinner, leaving leftovers in the pot to get cold overnight, and they would start over the next day. Sometimes stew had food in it that had been there for quite a while, hence the rhyme peas porridge hot, peas porridge cold, peas porridge in the pot 9 days old. Sometimes they could obtain pork, which would make them feel quite social. When visitors came over, they would hang up their bacon to show off. It was a sign of wealth that a man could bring home the bacon. They would cut off a little to share with the guest, and then they would all shoot around and chew the fat. So, shooting the breeze, sitting around bullshitting, chew the fat. So what you doing? I was chewing bacon fat. Is that it? Yeah, just sitting around chewing bacon fat. Bring home the bacon and then chew the fat when I bring it home. Sure wish I had a pot to piss in. Those with money had plates made of pewter. Food with high acid content caused some of the lead to leach onto the food, causing lead poisoning death. This happened most often with tomatoes. So for the next 400 years or so, tomatoes were considered poisonous. Bread was divided amongst, according to status. Workers got the burnt bottom of the loaf, the family got the middle, and guests got the top or the upper crust. Lead cups were used to drink ale or whiskey. The combination would sometimes knock the imbibers out for a couple of days. Someone walking along the road would have take them for dead, prepare them for burial when they were laid out on the kitchen table for a couple of days, and the family would gather around, eat and drink, and wait and see if they would wake up. Hence the custom of holding a wake. So that's what the point of a wake is you put the body on top of the table and you see if they're going to wake up. Is this person actually dead or did they drink poison or are they going to wake up? England's old and small, and the local folks started running out of places to bury people. So they would dig up coffins and would take the bones to a bone house and reuse the grave. But when reopening these coffins, one out of 25 coffins were found to have scratch marks on the inside, realized they had been burying people alive. So they would tie a string on the wrist of the corpse, lead it through the coffin and up through the ground, and tie it to a bell. Someone would have to sit out in the graveyard all night, the graveyard shift, to listen for the bell. Thus, someone could be saved by the bell or was considered a dead ringer. And that's the truth. Whoever said that history was boring. So that's interesting. The graveyard shift. There's actually a graveyard person that's out there waiting for one of these dead people to ring the bell. And when they ring the bell, they'll be saved by the bell. With Zach Morris and Kelly Kapowski. And they're considered a dead ringer. So I don't know. I mean, it's possible that all those had a etymology where it says they had etymology. Where etymology is the origin of the word. So I want to read for this lesson, ladies and gentlemen of the world. I want to read a chapter out of this book by the Shawnees. The book is called The Shawnees and the War for America by Colin G. Calloway. And there's a chapter in here about Cornstalk. So just to give you a little perspective on the Indian Wars, you have the American Revolution, which I don't know of anybody that actually agrees on the dates of that. But American Revolution, 74 to 80, 82 or 83. Fighting stops 82, and 83 they signed a treaty. I guess the war would be over when fighting stops. The treaty formalizes when fighting stops. So 82. 74 to 82. When you think about the revolution, you got to wonder, you got to make sure all the people who was there are considered. And when you think about the revolution, it just wasn't the American colonists versus the British colonials, but you had the Native Americans, and Native Americans were there in both sides. So, which is actually where they usually are. So when you think that there's the Native Americans, how does the Native Americans look at this? It looks like it's just like a little civil war between a bunch of white people. It's like, yeah, hell yeah, just let them kill each other over whatever. George Washington versus King George, whoever. You just pick a George and go on. But the Indians had actually, there's a bigger period. The Indians had a larger period, I would say, since 1492 till 1890. So for 400 years, 1492 to 1890. No, nearly 400 years, 398 years, the white Europeans was engaging in a red Native American genocide. So that's, I would say, the first 400 years of America would be the genocide of the Native Americans. That's a war, and that war went on till for 400 years. And like I said, so the hostilities, the massacre at Wounded Knee, that's where the government just went ahead and killed a whole shitload of innocent people. It was like the last stronghold they were trying to hold on to and occupy it, and so the American government just shot a bunch of uh, they just shot a bunch of women and children and old people, including Bigfoot, the old chief who'd always advocated peace with the white man, and his body was frozen in death. So that's Bigfoot. So the bigger context is for 400 years it was the white people versus the red people. So the Native Americans are being attacked by this invasion. Christopher Columbus isn't the hero, but he started this massive just genocide. Just not only are they killing them, they got horses and gunpowder, but also all these diseases. So everything is just changing all about them. So the lost colony of Roanoke. It's like that was a good idea. The Indians should have got rid of the oncoming Europeans. So that does make Plymouth and Jamestown more of a success story, since I would not trust the Europeans coming over here. So it would be hard pressed to think that the Indians would have accepted it. Also, when you think about Kentucky. So 1890 is when it ends. So Kentucky was right there at the forefront of the frontier, right? That's when the 13 colonies go from the east sides and they start going west. Is right there in the Cumberland Gap, right at the Appalachian Mountains. So we were right at the forefront of the frontier. That's where the frontier started. And so when you think about the Revolution, I got a comparative timetable here. 1774 is when Massachusetts kicked out all their colonial officials. So Massachusetts started the revolution way before anybody else did in 1774. But that doesn't get told. You also have the Battle of Bunker Hill in 1775. So that's when some of the fighting was. 1775, 1776, we declared our independence, right? The Declaration of Independence, July 4, 1776. But what's going on in Kentucky at this time? 1775, Fort Harrod is founded. Fort Harrod is the first fort in Kentucky, 1775. So the Battle of Bunker Hill and Fort Harrod, those happened in the same years. Fort Harrod was a settlement in different lands. So there's a Fort Harrod settlement. The Kentucky County of Virginia is created in 1776. Also in 1776, Chief Pluggy is coming down and attacking the new Kentucky invaders and gets killed in December 1776. I want to say Christmas Day or New Year's. The same year that no, Washington's crossing the Delaware in 83, right? Yeah, in 83. So this is before Washington's crossing the Delaware. In 76, this is when Americans are engaged in their, war of freedom and independence. The Indians are having to start a brand new war with the white people, white Europeans coming into Kentucky. And Kentucky is Indian land, it's Shawnee land. 1782 is the Battle of Blue Licks, and that's where Israel Boone, Daniel Boone's kid, gets shot along with like 82 other Kentucky militiamen, all because Hugh McGarry, who is the assassinator of Maloonta. Maloonta was a Shawnee war chief, and then Hugh McGarry just flat out assassinated him, just like they did to Cornstalk. Tecumseh talked about Cornstalk, so people are pissed off whenever you kill their leaders. It's in some, I think, United Nations is considered a war crime to assassinate someone else's, head of state, and for good reason too. I mean, it's their state, it's their leader. If they want to get rid of them, then they should be able to get rid of them, themselves. So, Battle of Blue Licks was in 1782. The end of the American Revolution was 82, 83. So, again, the Point Pleasant was right there in West Virginia, right in the Appalachian Mountains. So, in Kentucky, it's a whole other thing. Kentuckians are not fighting the British. They, I guess, are colonists, or like, Daniel Boone pressing on. But even Daniel Boone was called out for being too British. Daniel Boone went around, showing off his royal governorship that he got from Dunmore, whoever the fucking king of Virginia was. So when he was walking around, Kentucky, he was like, "Hey, I'm British. I'm okay. The British crown has allowed me to do this, and that's who I am." So it's Daniel Boone. So Kentucky's a whole nother beast when you think about the American Revolution. I'm putting this in context, and I might not be able to read much. I'll get it started, actually. So you have, that's the context that we're in, and the Shawnees in the War for America, it talks about Cornstalk. And I think Cornstalk is a very important person in American history, specifically Kentucky history. Shawnee was all over Kentucky. The Shawnee is Kentucky. There is a Shawnee River, I think is the Cumberland River. So the Shawnee River was actually, the Cumberland River was changed from, I don't know, the Shawnee River. Wouldn't that be a whole bunch of Shawnee there? I don't know. I mean, there's a ton of arrowheads all across the state. There's, it wasn't just Shawnee, but Chickasaw, Cherokee, Yuchi, Delaware, some Creek Indians, and some Delaware, Lenape. They also called it Lenape. So you had a ton of different Indians, but the Shawnees, through and through, were not only spread out all across Kentucky, but they're also the ones that fought most ferociously and valiantly. And in history, when you look back, the people who conceded are those who didn't fight, like a Tecumseh. Blackhoof come out of Kentucky, out of Skippakithy, and he tried to make peace with the white men by signing all their treaties. But the white people never honored any of their treaties. They always signed some treaty, and then they would just kill them all anyway. So they never did anything of what they actually said that they were going to do. So there's no reason for any Native American to ever believe that the white people's treaties would be upheld, because all of history shows that not only did they uphold them, but they also try to kill them and take their land. Same thing with Kentucky. The people that came in here, Daniel Boone, Richard Henderson, the Transylvania Company, Fort Harriet, all of them, the new pioneers, those frontier settlers who Kentucky romanticizes in our historic lore, are actually just a bunch of land speculators killing a bunch of Indians so they can steal their land. I like your land. I like all these creeks and all these trees and all these berries and animals and deers, so I'm going to take your land. That's what the so-called pioneers who are so celebrated today was doing. Daniel Boone was straight up just looking to get him some land. So these land speculators come into Kentucky, genociding all the Indians that are here, just killing any of them that they see, and they act surprised when some of them fight back. This is Shawnee land, and the Shawnee fought as hard and as valiantly as they could. Um, so, Cornstalk, chapter 3, coming up.